Hey guys, what's up? In this video I'm going to show you how to take an empty door shell and install the felts, rattle plugs, glass and bracket, regulator, hardware, latch, handle, and weather strip. So buckle up and prepare yourself for an epic adventure in Karmann Ghia restoration. Here are all the parts that are necessary to start putting the doors back together. First off, you've got the guide rail. It's in two pieces. You have the window regulator. This is the bracket that attaches the door glass to the window regulator. You've got your anti-rattle plugs. Then you've got your door felt, your inner door handle, your door latch. This is the pull rod. When you pull on the door handle, it yanks on this rod, activates the door latch. And for that, you're gonna need the clip. You're gonna need this piece of felt to keep it from scraping, and this rubber buffer here to keep it from rattling inside the door. This guide rail has a nut here, and then there's a star washer, and then it has a fender washer, and then it has this special adjusting screw. It's kind of like a stud with a fender washer welded onto it with a slot for a screwdriver. This one is 8 millimeters. It's an M8 by it's about 40 millimeters long. So if you're missing this, you're gonna be out of luck. You can probably buy it from Airhead, or you can probably find it online. And then at the top, there's a countersunk oval screw. It's an M8 and the pitch is 1.25, and it's about 10 millimeters long, and there's a star washer. So the hardware for the window regulator, there are 4 M6 bolts and spring washers. The pitch on these I think is 1.0. And there's also this long bolt right here. This is used to make adjustments to the maximum height of the window. And this is also an M6 and it's 30 millimeters. And there's a nut that goes on here right like that to lock it down. And then on the other end, there's this spring clip that you will slide this into the bracket to lift the window up and down. And then in the center here, just something to be aware of. Take a look at your window regulator. If this hub is distorted at all, if it doesn't look clean like this one, then you need to replace it. So there's 2 things you can do. You can replace the entire window regulator, or if you know how to weld or have a friend who can weld this for you, you can actually buy this hub from CIP1 or Airhead, drill this out and back, save this plate, and weld a new one to the back, and then reattach this spring. I bought these anti-rattle plugs and I test fit them on my door. They don't work really well, they just pop out. These have a tiny K and G symbol on the side. Can't recommend these. I'm not really sure why they don't work. There's just some kind of manufacturing defect in them. So I went online and I found some replacements. I found these on eBay and they work quite well. They don't pop out. And they're kind of hard to get into the door. I'll show you that later, but they should be hard to get in the door, because the harder they are to get in the door, then the more difficult it'll be for them to pop out. So that's really what you want. Taking a closer look at my inner door handle, for the passenger side, the lock switch should be on top. This is a part that I had taken off a 64 Karmann Ghia, and I took it apart. I removed the original shaft here. As you can see, I replaced it with a bolt and a nylock nut. The difficult part was just getting the springs back on the right way so it functions properly, but you don't have to re-chrome yours, but if you do want to re-chrome it, the shop recommends taking the handles off to do a better job on it. Something to note before you start assembling your doors is that these parts are not interchangeable. They're specific from left to right, and the way you tell them apart is pretty simple. So this part right here is the part that attaches to the inner door handle, and when you put it on, it should be angled downwards. And on the opposite end, this, if you're facing the door, if you're looking at the door straight on, this goes down and up into the latch mechanism on the side of the door. So if you put these in wrong, if you put the left side and the right side, your handle and your lock mechanism will not work correctly. Here's a passenger side door latch, and something to keep in mind before you begin assembling your door is to make sure that it functions properly. How do you know? Well, I give this a twist, I push on that, and it pops open. This is the lock mechanism. So I push that like that. Now it's locked, the door doesn't open. So you gotta make sure that this clock spring isn't broken off. You gotta make sure that that hub right there in the middle isn't distorted. There's another spring right here and a spring here. Mine didn't work because this C-clip had broken off, so I found a new one at the hardware store and just stuck it on there. And there's even a spring right there, a torsion spring, when you lock and unlock the door. That helps it snap in and out of place. So you have to make sure all 4 springs are either present or not broken, and then you're in business, then this thing will work. So before you run out and buy a new one or buy a new used one that also might be busted, just take a closer look at it, clean it, lubricate it, and if any of your springs are broken or missing, just replace them. For the door felts, I have a whole video on how to reattach these clips. I'll link to it in the description. Just a couple of brief points right here. When you install this in the door, you want the chrome side up and the clips down. And another thing to keep in mind is if you're reusing your original clips, these little 3 metal pieces here can get compressed inwards. So it might not fit in the door well. It could just like pop out or not attach firmly enough. So what you want to do is take a pair of needle nose pliers and gently pry these 3 prongs apart. You don't want to break them, obviously, just pry them apart just ever so slightly, so when you pop it into the hole in the door, it will hold in there tightly. So the hardware on here uses more M6 bolts. These are 10 millimeters long on the bottom, and there's 2 wave washers, 2 spring washers. And on the top, the bolt is 25 millimeters long, and there's a fender washer on the back, a fender washer in the front, and this nut and spring washer. And then inside, there's the rubber gasket. And this will go around the glass for the window on the door. And this is what makes the thing go up and down, up and down. I had to buy new glass for my doors because the originals were all scratched up. I got this from CIP1, obviously. And this is a really good reproduction. I think it was made in like Denmark or something like that. And the only disadvantage of using aftermarket glass is it doesn't have the original Secure It logo in the corner of the window. And one more thing you need to keep in mind is that when you put the bracket on, you have to protect these holes right here because a bolt has to slide through that. So I got a pair of rubber grommets and I put them in here, so that should protect the glass from getting chipped or cracked on installation. So according to every manual I've read and every online resource I found, you're supposed to put the bracket on first. Put the bracket onto the glass and then slide this into the opening on the top of the door and then install. But the problem is this bracket is too wide for the opening, so the only way to get it through is to angle the glass or to pry open the slot at the top of the door for the glass. And when you do that, you could distort the metal or scratch the paint. So I'm gonna mix it up. I'm gonna take this bracket off right now, and I'm gonna put the glass in the door, and then I'm gonna put the bracket on the glass once it's inside the door. I know that's radical, but that's the approach I'm gonna use to put this together. My doors aren't on the car yet, but it makes no difference. The parts go in just the same. If you do lay your door in a stand, make sure it's insulated with foam and lay across lengthwise so you don't put a dent or crease in the metal. When you buy these plugs online, they'll tell you that you need 7 per door, but on my particular door, which fits 64 through 66, there are 4 openings for these plugs. So I'm gonna have some left over. So the moral of the story is, don't believe everything you read. They're just trying to sell you more plugs that you don't need. Getting them in can be a little tricky. The stiffer the better though, because the harder they are to go in, the harder they are to come out. So that one's in there, good. Move on to the next one. If using your fingers isn't working for you, try an Allen wrench with a vice grip. Just be sure you don't scratch the paint. So the plugs are in the door. They're a bit of a pain in the neck to get in. You just have to keep on pushing on them until they're firmly seated and don't pop out. And once that's done, ready to move on to the next step, which is to put the felt into the door. I changed the camera angle so we can see into the door. Opposite the plugs is where the felt is going to go along this edge here, and inside the door little holes, and the clips on the door felts are just going to pop right in here. So when you put this in, the clips go towards the bottom of the door and the decorative chrome edge faces upwards in the opening. Plugs and the felts are in place, and now I'm ready for the glass. Because the door is horizontal right now, I want to make sure I don't scratch the glass, so I can temporarily put some of this bubble wrap in here. I'm sliding the glass between the felt and the anti-rattle plugs, holding it up evenly so it doesn't scrape at anything inside the door, and laying it in place. This is kind of a critical step right now. The two holes in the glass have to line up with the holes in the bracket right here, these two top holes. And I have to also make sure that I don't scratch the glass, scratch the door, or knock the door onto the floor. All of those things would be very bad. It's actually very awkward, but it's on and it's straight. I put some more bubble wrap inside the door to protect the glass as I get the window regulator in, and I've lubricated it with some lithium grease. And I'm just going to slide this under here. Maneuver this into position. And these bolts, I've already put some anti-seize on them. Okay, this is next. I've already put some anti-seize on the threads here. And on the back, I put some lithium on this part right there. That's where the spring on the bottom of the window regulator is going to slide into place. So let's put this in right now. I'm going to maneuver the window regulator up a little bit so I can get that spring onto the bottom of the track. Just going to maneuver this into place. Slide the track up. Okay, spring is on the back of that bracket. Fender washer, star washer, and my nut. Then at the top, got my star washer and my screw. This is one of the adjustment screws for the glass, but not quite ready for that yet. I have to wait until the door is installed in the car. Next, got to slide the glass back up through the opening in the door and then maneuver it into place so I can attach it right here. Okay, I'm going to put the two short bolts in first, get them roughly in the middle. Again, this is another place where you make an adjustment on the window in order to fit it into the door opening once it's installed in the car. Okay, I'm gonna raise this up just a little higher so I can get behind there and put the long bolts in. Okay, the window's in place. I don't need this bubble wrap anymore. This is just getting in my way. It's starting to look like a real door now. So with this hardware going in from behind that bracket, we've got the bolt and fender washer, and then the opposite side, it's another fender washer, wave washer, and a nut. So this is another area where adjustments can be made to the glass. Once the door is installed in the car, the glass can either slide forwards or backwards. It looks like there's about, I don't know, a centimeter, 1.5 centimeters of adjustment that can be made. So that's gonna happen obviously later on once the car is more put together. Okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity to admire my handiwork. There's the window sliding down. And here's the window sliding up. There's a very specific way that this clip attaches to the door pull rod. So you want to put that on there like this. You rotate this around. Loop that through there like that. Flip it up. And the easiest way to attach this to the latch is when it's out of the car, when it's out of the door. So put that on there like that. Pop this in. And then slide the clip over the end, and that locks it in place. Okay, to get this in, what you want to do is snap the latch into the shut position, and then it's pretty simple. You just maneuver this around the glass. And then slide the latch through the opening in the door. Just got to maneuver this opening onto this little nub right here on the latch. You do that by pulling the handle, pushing the lock back, and then you just twist that into place. Okay, that's on. There's some captive nuts inside the door frame. Don't forget your anti-seize, kids. Okay, that little bit of felt I mentioned before, that goes right here, and there's some glue residue on the back. So if memory serves me right, it just glues in place right there to keep this from rattling inside the door. And that other rubber buffer goes right here alongside the edge of this guide rail for the window, so when you open and shut the door, it doesn't scrape. All right, next up, I need to get this gasket set in the door. Just glues on with some Weatherstrip adhesive. It's pretty simple. Just a few things to keep in mind. First off, this ball at the end of the Weatherstrip has to fit into this factory hole right here in the door, so you need to shove that in. It's kind of a pain in the neck to do that. Next thing to keep in mind, there's a contour in the body right here in the door, and where it makes this turn, the Weatherstrip could pop out. So there's a factory clip right here, and this clip just screws into the side of the door. If I change the angle right here, you see that it has a little edge right here, and it hooks onto the Weatherstripping to hold it down. And then along the bottom of the door, there's 3 drain holes. You want to make sure that these are not covered up in any way by the Weatherstripping, otherwise there might be a problem with water being stuck in the door, and that could cause it to rust out. So what I'm going to do right now is break out my Weatherstrip adhesive, but first I'm going to get this business end stuck into that hole. You might think this is impossible, but keep working at it carefully and the big rubber ball will eventually fit into that small opening. I'm using a very tiny screwdriver, being careful not to scratch the paint, and little by little it goes in. And once it's in, you're ready for gasket adhesive. So I'm using this Weatherstrip adhesive here. This is 3M Black Super Weatherstrip and Gasket Adhesive. So what I'm doing is I'm laying some blue tape around the perimeter of the door, and that's just going to give me a visual guide so I don't over apply the adhesive. And I'm using a disposable brush. You can use your finger, but I just find it makes a big mess and I don't want to get adhesive everywhere. And once that's down on the door, I apply adhesive to the Weatherstrip, which I have hanging above the door by a coat hanger. I'm not working with an assistant, that would be preferable. Getting the adhesive on the Weatherstrip without, getting it all over the door and making a mess. That's the biggest challenge with this, is not being messy. Once the adhesive is tacked up and sort of almost dry, then just lay down the Weatherstrip around the perimeter of the door, again avoiding the drain holes on the bottom and making sure that it's on evenly and it's looking good. And at the corner of the door along that body line, I just put a couple of clamps on there just to hold it down so it doesn't pop off until it's dried. This is the alignment wedge that fits into the side of the door. I'm leaving it slightly loose for now until the door is on the car. Once the door is adjusted in the final position and I have a good panel fit, I'll mark the position of the alignment wedge and tighten it down. In the next video of my ongoing door series, I'll assemble the door hinges and roller pins, hang the doors on the car, and align and adjust with a little help from my friend, Dennis from Vintage VW. Become a subscriber so you don't miss out on a single video from Pete's Ghias, your #1 source for Karmann Ghia DIY and restoration on YouTube, according to me.